I started at Brentwood Baptist about, my husband and I moved to Nashville area in, I think it was 1990. Mike had not been yet called here as a pastor. Bill Wilson had just left, and there was an interim pastor named John Lyda. And when I first attended church, I had never been to church before. I was not a believer. My husband had grown up in a church family, and I just kind of started attending. He was very active in the choir, and I started attending and learning everything, and it was kind of all new to me. I'd never lived in the South, never been to church, a lot of culture shock. But it took a while. It took me about 2 years of a lot of people praying within the congregation before I accepted Christ, became a believer. And then immediately I went on a mission journey, even before I was baptized. And people ask me, well, why did you do that? And I said, well, I thought that's what you did. I thought part of what it says in the Bible is that you did these things, and so I went. And that was the start of it, and I was active in missions ever since. So I became very active in missions. Bill and Creeley Wilson were the missions ministers at that time. They set up the first trip I went on was to Scotland, and they were set that up, and we went to visit one of our former youth pastors. David Minch was working in Scotland at the time. And then other things just kind of snowballed. I became active in helping lead trips. I became active in helping set up trips. Scott came on board. Became friends with Scott, became just active as a volunteer. Of course, there were no funds at that time for a mission staff, so it was Scott and his wife Beth. And over a period of time, as I became more and more active and did more and more things, when funds finally became available, I was like the first part-time missions person. And so I jumped at the opportunity to do that and then became more and more active as time went on. The scope of missions was really looking at what Bill and Creeley had so well built up on a foundation of missions and what that could look like. And it really just transferred as the church grew. It just kind of grew in that mold and in that foundation. They provided for us the footprint of what it would look like as we are today. How we mobilize people, how we engage the community, how we engage the world, how we bring the world into teach and educate people of the congregation. So really it's the same thing that we do now, but on a much different scale. So in 2004 there was a tsunami that hit Southeast Asia and Indonesia. And as a church we were like, well, this is a big thing. Is there something that we should be engaged with? The International Mission Board was doing some work there, and if you can remember, Indonesia at that time was a very closed community. The area that was the most hardest hit, Banda Aceh, they did not allow any Western visitors for the past 20 years until that moment. And so that opened the door for Westerners and also people of faith to go into Indonesia. And so we took that opportunity. It's like, what a great opportunity. So we took a small team there. And as we engaged in that, we thought, what an amazing opportunity that God has provided us through these relationships, and how can we further that? And then just another 6-9 months down the road, Katrina hit in our own backyard. And we were very impacted here in Nashville, even though we might seem like we're so far away. We had a relocation center in Franklin where 1,500 people from New Orleans were relocated. So we felt that we had that automatic symbiosis with the people there, so we started looking at opportunities there. And again, the North American Mission Board and the Southern Baptist play an integral role in any disaster relief in the United States. And we jumped on board and said, how can we help? How can we be not just a short-term solution, but a long-term partner in some of these works? And so that's how it started. And we looked at the resources required, and we said, hey, let's step up. Let's have our community step up. And so with a combination of Hope for the World, we said, Mike was saying, hey, let's call it together and let's shoot for $1 million. We made that mark, and that kind of took off after then. So when Bill and Creeley were here, and we're just looking at how can we engage with people, and particularly with engagement with people that we already had a connection with. Like I said, David mentioned been a youth minister here. He was serving as with the International Mission Board in Scotland. So I was like, hey, here's a connection. Let's do that. Let's work together with him. So from that model, we have continued to do that. And we've had missionaries now from our church go out through the world. And so as we continue these journeys, you've seen us try to partner with these organizations and these missionaries that we have this personal connection with. Well, here's a good example. So back in the 90s, I guess it was, we'll call it the 1990s, my memory's getting a little foggy. In Williamson County, there was not a centralized area for people in need to go. If you had a significant need for maybe for finances or for food, there wasn't a centralized food pantry. There wasn't a central place that you could go. As a person, you would have to go to an individual church to try to find help and assistance. So some members of Brentwood Baptist, Peggy Overby, along with members from other churches in the area came together and they said, we need to coordinate that effort. And they put together the organization that's now known as GraceWorks Ministry. And GraceWorks now serves Williamson County and provides all sorts of services within Williamson County. And that birthed out of the need that was felt to coordinate through Williamson County. So now GraceWorks is one of the ministries that Brentwood Baptist partners with, and they provide services throughout Williamson County for people that have emergency needs and poverty, need help with job search, counseling, all sorts of different services. When I started in missions, there might have been one mission adventure, one mission journey a year, and now you can look online and there's, 30, 40, it's amazing. And I think people take for granted the globalization of how easy it is to get on a plane and go somewhere, but those connections, they take years to develop, and it's not as simple as just hopping on a plane to go somewhere. The places need to be vetted, there need to be a personal relationship, some sort of ministry or church relationship. It takes a long time, it takes a lot of prayer to select the right locations. Have to listen for God. It's all in His timing. We want to move so quickly, but yet at times we're like, whoa, let's slow down. Where does God really want us to be? And I think that the ministry now and missions now is trying to be patient over these 50 years and listening to God and following His direction where we need to be, where we don't need to be, where we need to spend our resources, where our people need to be engaged, where He would like us to be in the future. It's a very exciting time. My hope for the future is that we stay patient and that we listen. There are so many opportunities. In fact, I think it's more of a challenge now than it was maybe 20 years ago, in that you can't just hop on a plane and go somewhere, or you can't drive, in one day to get to Chicago. So there's so many opportunities, but where is it that God really wants us to center? Where is it that He wants us to work, and that there are unique opportunities for our congregation that we're uniquely skilled for? That we have the unique skill set in the many congregations in the many different campuses. What skill sets are those different campuses providing, and how can they be matched up? He has in mind what Station Hill and what Harpeth Heights and what all these different places are, and where they need to partner with. So we just need to listen, be patient, and go forward and get ready for an adventure that we can't predict. Yeah, our relationship with Jamie Thompson and Reborn Ministries, as it's now called, is so dynamic. It started out as working with the youth. Our youth would go there on summer trips doing VBS. And then we said, the students, there's a bigger need than just students in the summer. So got together with Jamie and said, hey, how can we partner in some other different ways? One of the ways we came up with, one of the first things we did was we set up a small tax clinic. We looked at, hey, what kind of resources do we have in Brentwood Baptist Church? And one of the things we have are CPAs and people that like numbers. And so that's something that they had a need for, people that could help people in poverty and help people that don't have the resources to go in and help them with their taxes for free. And at that time, there just wasn't available resources like there are now to do that. And so that was a way we could try to introduce Jamie to the community and to the different adults in the community. In Chicago, one of our partnerships started there and was spawned from our work with the youth ministry. Amy Jo had developed and found out about Jamie, said, hey, what a great ministry that they're doing. We took a couple of summer trips up there with the students, and we were like, this church and the ministry that they're doing in Garfield Park is amazing. So what other ways can we assist them? What other ways is God showing us that we can come alongside them? And so really the youth was the impetus for how we started in with the different congregations and with the adults working with Jamie Thompson in Chicago.